Howdy, y'all. Welcome back to another episode of Season 2 of How Can It Be with Allie Johnson and
Kara Johnson.
wow, this has been a tricky beginning.
But here we are, you know?
This is just round 4 of us really quick doing this intro, so no worries.
Take 4.
Take 4. If you're new here, this podcast is all about glorifying God in the everyday good, the bad, and the in-between. We start out every episode the same way, just by talking about a little way we've seen Christ in our life the last week or so. And Kara gets to start. Take it away, girl.
This one's sweet. But first it's sad.
Oh, dear.
But it's okay. Because I'm just going to get real and say that sometimes the weeks are hard.
So
and
true.
My week was.
Mm.
But it's okay. And anyway, still, even when we have hard weeks, there's so many things that we can see Christ's hand in our lives. I actually had a different Jesus moment for today, but then I already shared it with a million people, so then I was like, oh.
Seriously, it lost meaning already.
So then I was like, oh, no worries, like, I'll just pull up another one from the archives of this week, because there's millions.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so I was having a hard week because just everything's hitting where it's like feeling overwhelmed. My new job is kind of just really like a bulldozer running me over, you know. In the way where I'm like doing that, also school, stressing me out, midterms, all these things happening. And then just like good old sadness and like grief and hard times. So I was in the dumps, to say the least. But I was I was in the car with one of my friends, and she was talking, and we were just kind of talking about how life's hard. And she was talking about how life's been really hard for her, and we were kind of like talking through that, consoling her a little bit. And then she was like dropping us off at home. And she just kind of was like, how are you doing? And I was like, honestly, not great. Just gonna be honest here, not great. But we don't need to dwell on it. We don't really need to talk about it. She gave me a little sticker that said, life's tough, but so are you. And then the next day I came home from, I don't even remember where I was at, but I came home and I walked into my room, and on my bed, first of all, I hadn't made my bed that morning. That was just not a priority in my life. My bed was made, and there were treats on my bed. Gluten-free Oreos, popcorn, a little drink, dried mango, something else. And I was like, with a little note that was like, I love you, love Katie.
I knew it was Katie.
I know.
I freaking knew it was.
She's the best.
She's a fairy.
And sometimes, like, she was struggling. She was telling us how she was struggling. But she went out of her way to buy me some treats, make my bed, put them on there, and then she was gone before I even got there, you know? And I'm like, that is like a Jesus kind of person right there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Jesus in his life, are you kidding? He had a million things going on.
Yeah.
Here I am complaining about my week. Jesus had it 10 times harder. But that didn't matter. He put that aside. He served other people. He helped other people. He lifted them up, made their day better. And I was like, that was just such a tender moment when I was like, I'm not alone. I can get through this. There are people who are looking out for me. It actually read, someone put this scripture like on their Instagram story or something today. And I love it. It says, if I can find it. It says, I will be on your right hand and on your left, and my spirit shall be in your hearts, and mine angels round about you to bear you up.
Aww.
And it's just true. Like, really, we are surrounded by God, by his angels that are in our lives here physically and on the other side that are helping us and lifting us up in those weeks that are hard. Because it's not always going to be easy. But we just can know that we can be that person for other people, and there are people like that care about us and love us. And the little things matter so much. And just, that was my Jesus moment, because hashtag Jesus loves me, even though it's hard.
Hashtag so true.
And
Seriously.
Katie's the best.
Yeah, and truly, if nothing else, we have good friends, and that's what's lucky.
Yeah, true.
But also, like, every time that we have a good experience with a good friend, how cool would it be if we turned it around and we're like, it's so crazy that this friend is so good to me, and I have a friend that's even better, and his name's Christ. You've got a friend in him. You've got a friend in him. Word. Okay, my Jesus moment. Here. It kind of goes along with that a little bit. It's a cutesy little ladybug. Just kidding. That's a quote from Nicki Minaj. So sorry about that. She's a cutesy little ladybug.
Is it a quote or is it from a song? What's going on?
I just wanted to show you that's what I've been doing with my hands this whole time, just pinching my own hands.
Thanks
I don't know. I am not sure.
It's okay.
Cutesy little ladybug. Just give me a second.
Please. I could not be feeling more lost right now.
Yeah, just 1 second. And I promise this has nothing to do with anything, so.
Oh, okay.
But
somehow it does.
Cutesy little ladybug. Everybody needs to hear this anyway, so it doesn't even matter.
Little ladybug. Of course, she's not a ladybug. She's huge, but she's so beautiful. She's a mammoth, of course. And she has blonde hair. She does really cute stuff with her hair. She does her lashes. She loves wearing mascara. And she just, she's cutesy. She's a cutesy little ladybug. Of course.
Anyways, just keep that in mind sometimes. Sorry.
So
this is a cutesy little quote, but then as soon as I said cutesy little, I had to say ladybug. Forgive us, okay? I don't know.
Yeah.
This is the cutesiest little quote from a book that's not so cutesy. It's more so like rip your heart out and step on it a few times and then change your life forever. And you made me read it. And it's Just Mercy.
Oh, yeah.
And to be fair, I only read the first 3 chapters and still.
Honestly, I was thinking about sharing some quotes at some point in my life
and
from
cheers,
that book,
and
because
guess what? I'll share one right now.
Please do.
So in the beginning, it reads like he tells us about the very first person he ever went and visited in the prisons, which if you haven't read Just Mercy or watched the movie, you should just probably just go do that. I won't give you my whole synopsis because I'll probably like cry and then it'll take me a while to get through it. Regardless, he goes and works with people that are on death row, okay? Period. Very first person he ever goes and meets. He tells this whole story of their interaction together and how it like made him decide that that's what he wanted to do with his life. And at the very end, a prison guard comes to take the prisoner back. And it's the end of their meeting and whatever.
Mind you, this prisoner is not being nice. Shackles this guy and
the prisoner is being nice.
Oh, sorry.
The guard is being so mean.
The guard is not being nice. Shackles the prisoner like really, really, really tight, and it hurts him.
And it's hurting him. But the prisoner is just this happy-go-lucky, angel, sweetie pie, cutesy little ladybug, okay? And as he's leaving, the guard's like pushing him out, and he's tripping over his own shackles on his ankles. And he stops in his tracks, and he starts singing a song.
Which is so tender.
It's so tender. And so I'm just going to read a little bit of the words of the song. And it says, I'm pressing on the upward way. New heights I'm gaining every day. Still praying as I'm onward bound. Lord, plant my feet on higher ground. So, basically I read those words like a few weeks ago, but I go back like multiple times a week since I read it just to find it, because all I remember is that it's a cutesy little ladybug quote. And so I go back to read it when I need like to be humbled or something, or when I need to like remember like to get my stuff together. But I just think that this quote goes so well with kind of what you were saying. Like sometimes life is just hard. Like sometimes nothing inherently disastrous is going on, but the everyday mundane things just feel like they're way too much.
Yeah.
And I think quotes like this remind us that like those circumstances oftentimes won't change, but when we plant our feet on higher ground, when we plant our feet on higher ground and we're looking towards Jesus every day, and walking with him and choosing him every day, that's where the change happens.
So if anything, our Jesus moments were to remind you that
life is hard,
but
life
we
is
can be
tough,
upward bound.
But
with Jesus,
we are tougher with Jesus.
Plant your feet on higher ground.
Plant 'em, shorty. Okay, today we're reading the parable of the talents. Another miracle from Christ's ministry.
A little story he shared to teach us all a lesson.
Mm-hmm. And you'll find that story in Matthew 25, starting in verse 14. It's a little long, so buckle up and get ready. And Kara, start off on that verse and get into it.
Okay. For the kingdom of heaven is as a man traveling into a far country, who called his own servants, and delivered unto them his goods.
And unto one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1, to every man according to his several ability, and straightway took his journey.
Then he that had received the 5 talents went and traded with the same, and made them other 5 talents.
And likewise he that had received 2, he also gained another 2.
But he that had received 1 went and digged in the earth, and hid his Lord's money.
After a long time the Lord of those servants cometh, and reckoneth with them.
And so he that had received 5 talents came and brought other 5 talents, saying, Lord, thou deliveredst unto me 5 talents. Behold, I have gained beside them 5 talents more.
His Lord said unto him, Well done, thou good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of thy Lord.
He also that had received 2 talents came and said, Lord, thou deliveredst unto me 2 talents. Behold, I have gained 2 other talents beside them.
His Lord said unto him, Well done, good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of thy Lord.
Then he which had received the 1 talent came and said, Lord, I knew thee that thou art a hard man, reaping where thou... Then he which had received the 1 talent came and said, Lord, I knew thee that thou art a hard man, reaping where thou hast not sown, and gathering where thou hast not strawed.
Just so you know, the footnote there under hard is strict. So he knew that he was a strict man. Anyways. And I was afraid and went and hid thy talent in the earth. Lo, there thou hast, that is thine.
His Lord answered and said unto him, Thou wicked and slothful servant, thou knewest that I reap where I sowed not, and gather where I have not strawed.
Thou oughtest therefore to have put my money to the exchanges, and then at my coming I should have received mine own with... Any idea?
A surety? Sure.
Okay.
Take therefore the talent from him, and give it unto him which hath 10 talents.
For unto every one that hath shall be given, and he shall have abundance, but from him that hath not shall be taken away even that which he hath.
I was struggling with the wording
wow.
on that one.
I was having a stroke a few times reading that personally. But
the message, nonetheless.
Good stuff in this. Really good stuff.
So we have 3 people here. 1 that receives 5 talents, 1 that receives 2, and 1 that receives 1 talent. And we see that the ones that have 5 and the ones that have 2, they are able to multiply their talents.
Mm-hmm.
And the one that has 1, because he only has 1, hides his talent and buries it. And then at the end, they have to go and report to the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to take it away from here?
Sure. Basically, I feel like this is such a good lesson, especially for it. We can really tie it into what we've been talking about today too. I think that it's so important for us to remember that sometimes we look at what we think we have and out of efforts to not lose what we have, we stop trying at all, and we just try to stay on a standstill ground. And I think that it's so awesome that Christ is encouraging us and showing us here that when we put forth effort with what he's given us, he only multiplies it and brings forth like plentiful like goodness into our lives. And I think that that's awesome, especially when things are feeling tricky in our life. And when it feels like maybe we don't have that big of a connection with Christ, or our testimony isn't that strong, or whatever, like feels like we have nothing to offer, how comforting to know that like nothing to offer doesn't exist when you're doing something with Christ. Because even if all you have is a very basic knowledge and understanding that there's something out there, and that there's somebody who maybe loves you and who maybe loved you enough to die for you, if that's all you have, then you can do something with that. And what's so cool is he's essentially promising us in this parable that when we do something with what sometimes feels like nothing, he can make it everything.
Yeah. It also reminds me, I feel like there are a few scriptures that talk about not being idle,
mm-hmm.
and that we have to work. It's like part of our journey on this earth. I was taking a Masterpieces of World Literature class.
So true.
It's interesting. And we were talking about like in like the 1600s, 1700s, and like big works throughout the world, like authors and stuff. And how lots of them kind of had a little bit of a theme of utopia, like going in and out of their works. And like in a bunch of the revolutions and things where people were wanting like a perfect world, you know?
Yeah.
And our teacher had us do like a little survey or something. And she was like, what does a utopia look like for you?
Mm-hmm.
And we were putting like, I mean, we're college students. Like, obviously we like are tired. We want rest. So we're like rest and peace.
Yeah.
And she like taught us a lesson about how also part of it is work.
Mm-hmm.
And how even though we might think of work as like, oh, that sounds terrible, like truly we don't want to be idle. We don't want to just sit there and do nothing, because that really wouldn't be a utopia for us. We would be bored out of our minds. Life would be terrible. We'd be sad. We wouldn't feel like we had purpose, you know?
Yeah.
So there's like a peace that can also come in doing something.
Yeah.
With your life.
There's so much peace and fulfillment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's like part of a utopia, a perfect world, is putting that work in, and then we get the rewards. We reap those rewards.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's kind of also part of this, is where he's like, the Lord doesn't want us to be idle. He doesn't want us to just take what he gave us, bury it in the ground, and be like, all right, that's it. We're going to just wait this out. But he wants us to go and make more with the things that he's given us.
Yeah.
And learn. And we talk about how like the things that we'll take with us after this life are not necessarily like all of our possessions and all of these things, you know, but like the things that we were able to accomplish, and our knowledge and our relationships. And that's at the end of the day what's the most important. And so we need to work on, God gave us these things, okay, now what are we going to make out of it?
Mm-hmm.
And there are so many things in store.
Yeah. No, and of course all that I'm thinking is like of this really like established and like amazing guy. His name's Michael Scott.
Of course. Naturally.
It's funny because I just looked up this quote, and the first thing that pops up is it says that it's from him, but it's just not. It's actually from Wayne Gretzky. Wayne Gretzky. And he's a famous hockey player.
Oh.
But he says, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. You know? That's been rolling in my head 24/7, and you know, it makes sense that Michael Scott tried to take credit for this quote.
It's a good one.
Because it's a good one. But I think that it's so awesome that like even these like super famous hockey players and Michael Scott and so many other people are gonna be like relying on words like this. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Christ is saying that exact same thing in this parable. He's saying, when you do nothing with the things that I've given you, I can't make anything happen in your life.
Yeah.
And so, of course, he's going to say, you slothful servant. I'm saying, oh.
Oh, no.
That sucks.
That's tricky.
It sucks to be humbled in that way, but it really is so true. And what's crazy is that like Christ is almost promising us that like if we do something, like anything with what he's given us, we will never come up empty-handed. And I think it just ties even back together with what my Jesus moment says. Like, we're supposed to be pressing on, pressing upward. We're supposed to reach new heights every day. Like, we never are planning. It's never on our agenda to go backwards. And I think that's the cool thing, though, is we believe in a Savior who, even when we're trekking up the hill, if we start sliding backwards, Christ will make something out of the slide.
Yeah.
And he will allow for us to be a little bit stronger because we're doing those steps for a second time. And I just think that's awesome. Like, as long as we're praying, as we're onward bound, Christ will make something of our efforts.
And I like it a lot because in the parable, one of them gets 5 more talents, and one of them gets 2 more talents. But Christ's response to both of them is the exact same. Like, we read like 2 of the exact same verses when he was talking to the one that got 5 more and the one that got 2 more. Because he's like, you worked. You took what I gave you and you worked and you did a great job. He doesn't care that one brought 2 and one brought 5.
Yeah.
He's like, great job to both of them, you know? And so it's not like we need to compare ourselves to other people or that we have to like do as much as another person, but Christ just wants that effort. He wants us to put in our 2 talents.
Yeah.
And to multiply them.
Yeah. And honestly, it just reminds me too of Matthew 5. This classic verse that everybody knows in Matthew 5, it's verse 15. It's, neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but on a candlestick, and it giveth light unto all that are in the house. And then in 16 it says, let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. It's awesome too, because nowhere is Christ saying like, do something with what I've given you so more people think I'm awesome. Like,
yeah.
But it's cool because when we do something with what he has provided, he multiplies and replenishes and amplifies any glory that we have. And what a cool opportunity we have to turn that around and to allow people to see the things that we're accomplishing and allow it to be something that glorifies our Father, which is in heaven.
He never has, and he never will do it to glorify his own name. He doesn't care.
Yeah. And he'll make something out of every shot that you take.
Yeah. At the end of the day, the things he asks us to do are for our own benefit.
Yeah.
Like, to make our lives better.
Yeah.
It's not like Christ is gaining something from that, you know?
And that's what's crazy is, as we glorify him and his Father, all that we see is other people coming to know them and then bettering themselves and their lives. And so that is what's really crazy, is that like, even as we glorify him, it's still not only for him.
Yeah.
It's for other people and for other people's salvation and other people's happiness. And it's just cool. There's so many reasons to rejoice about the things that he has provided and the things that he will provide as we learn to lean on him.
It's almost like we should like make him an everyday topic.
Fine. We can.
Great.
Okay, fine.
So
Good luck, you guys. Don't hide your light under a bushel.
Plant your feet on higher ground.
Love you. He loves you more. See you next week.
Bye.